augmentation aspect of what robotics bring into construction, I think, is really where the important focus area is. And I've heard a lot of people get a little scared. They go, oh, like they're replacing our jobs. And like, first and foremost, the labor shortage guarantees that your job's not going anywhere. But I think that kind of leads into my next question is, what are those big myths and misconceptions of the technology right now? Like, where are people focused possibly in the wrong spot that you'd love an opportunity to just kind of do away with that myth and send everybody in the right direction?
Yeah, I think you just brought up the first one, which is that construction workers are scared of robotics. They don't like robotic solutions. And I would say the exact opposite is true. I've been on a lot of project sites where we've had robotic solutions deployed. And first off, people are really excited about it. They want to learn more. They want to engage. It's something new on site, and people are very curious. I would also say the majority of our robotic solutions are directly serving our construction workers and craft. Like some of the examples I mentioned earlier, they're helping people go home at the end of the day less tired, less wear and tear, less strain. We're taking people out of dangerous situations and using a robot in those places. So we're directly benefiting our craft population. And in a lot of instances, we're actually increasing their productivity and their profitability. So they're able to do more work over a shorter amount of time. A lot of times they're still using the same number of people, but they can just get the job done sooner, and it can help to speed up project schedule. It frees up those crews to work on other projects. Everyone has plenty of work to go around. So if you can get a site off-site, turned over to the next job even faster, it's a benefit to everyone.
It makes a ton of sense. And when I was still in industry, like the 8-hour day just was a myth, and finding ways to fix and help our teams, one, to, like you said, the safety aspect of it, the wear and tear on the human, like working in construction, some of it's very hard work, and to be able to make that safer and also speed some of it along, get a lot more productivity, it all sounds like a win if you're really intentionally focusing, your energy on where you bring these technologies in. So I'm curious, aside from what you shared already, are there any other big benefits that you're seeing to adopting robotics for the construction industry, especially for somebody who out there is like, how do I convince my boss to start bringing this in? Like, where should they focus?
Yeah, I'd say, first and foremost, one of the biggest values we get from construction robotics is making our sites safer and reducing risk and dangerous situations. We had kind of a unique robotics application in one of our UK projects where they were looking at site civil construction, and when we're doing road work, our biggest fatality risk is people getting struck by a car before the project even starts, just when you're putting the cones out to mark off an area. And that's done by a person. They're exposed to a lot of hazards in that situation. So we actually were able to get a robotic cone laying machine. So instead of having a person put up that protection, you're having a machine put up that protection, and you're really eliminating a huge fatality risk. So just the safety aspect, I think alone is enough to want to invest in construction robotics. There's so many applications like that where we can put a robot into a dangerous situation. That's where we stop talking about augmentation of labor. So you're not working directly with that robotic piece. It's actually taking the place of a person where we don't want to put people. We don't want to put people in areas where there's dangerous chemicals, where they're going to be doing underground work in a dangerous trench situation, or where
confined spaces are not anywhere anybody wants to be.
No, so we can actually take people out of the places they don't want to be. And then in the spaces where people are, working on site with that robotic application, we're going to reduce that strain on the body. We're going to help them to be more efficient and go home at the end of the day feeling less tired and able to actually spend quality time at home, with their families, doing the things they want to do instead of just being completely tired at the end of the day.
It makes a bunch of sense. And so let's pretend somebody has taken your advice here and they've qualified to their boss or their executives. There's value in bringing this. They've started explaining that this is actually a safety thing and dispelled some of the myths that we were talking about a bit earlier. Where should they start? Obviously, boiling the ocean and say, I'm going to bring robotics to every aspect of my construction workflow probably is going to be a bit overwhelming and likely won't get greenlit. But where are those areas of focus that are going to get some easy wins to really start improving, a project that hasn't had this benefit before?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing to think about is process integration. So what does the existing process look like without the robot? And what does it look like to actually bring the robot into that task? How do you basically hand over from not using the robot to starting to use it? And what does it look like to train people on site? There's a lot of planning that needs to go into using robotics. If you just show up on site with a robot, people are going to have no idea what to do. It's going to be really disruptive, really distracting. So there's a lot of planning that goes into place, kind of like we do pre-construction. We think about how we're going to do the work, how we're going to implement these solutions, and the same is true for using robotics. We really need to think about how does this integrate into the process. The other part of that is, what is the robot doing? What is the actual thing that the robot is going to bring to site? How do we start to think of robotics as just another tool that we have? It has a specific job. Every tool in our toolbox does something. So what do our robotic solutions do? And how can we be better at defining that? I think one of the challenges that I've seen, one of the biggest setbacks maybe for robotics, is that people don't always understand the purpose of our robotic tools. I think Spot is a great example of that. Misconception with Spot is people think it's a toy. It's a robotic toy on site. What is it really doing? So how do we communicate really, really clearly with everyone on site? What is this robotic tool doing on site? How do we think of it as just another tool in our tool shed that does a certain thing? So we really need to think about our robots as tools. How do we know exactly what they're doing and really focus? Because a lot of our robots, maybe they do more than one thing, but how do we focus on something that's really going to add value? And then start with that. Before you start to boil the ocean and try to use your robot for everything, start with something that's really actionable, clear, that tells the story so that people really know, anyone on site, if you ask them, hey, what does that robot do? They could tell you.
Yeah.